In this video, I'll show you how to set up an evening routine for a child or a teenager who wants to do their homework but sometimes gets distracted. What we'll do is the scenario will be that when they come home from school, perhaps right now they come home and they've got a habit that they hopefully want to change. It's really important that they buy into this system. The bad habit might be that they get home and they jump on their phone or their iPad or their computer and they go on YouTube or they play games, and then it gets to the end of the day and they want to do their homework but it's too late and they're tired. So instead, the goal is that when they get home from school, they'll do some healthy habits like putting their lunchbox away, doing 20 minutes of homework, and then going on to YouTube or games. The way we'll configure that is log into dashboard.focusbear.io and click on Settings. Then come in here and under Shutdown Time, put in the time that they come home from school. Let's say it's 3:15 p.m. Then go to Evening Routine, click on the plus, and we will make it put lunchbox away. And we'll say that will take 3 minutes. And if you've got things in here which aren't relevant, you can just delete them. I'm just going to delete these ones because I don't think they're that relevant for this scenario. Then what we'll do is do homework. And initially, it might just be for 5 minutes. What we want to do is set up tiny habits. Right now, if they're doing 0 homework, then 5 minutes is probably going to feel achievable. And it may even be that they do 5 minutes and they get into hyperfocus and they don't want to stop. And they'll keep going for a good amount of time. The key is starting. And then over time, they might want to increase it to 10 minutes. But if 10 minutes feels impossible right now, that's fine. We just want to focus on consistency. And over time, it will get better. It might be that over time they feel comfortable with doing much more, half an hour per day. But let's not start there if they're doing nothing, because we don't want to scare them off. And then the next thing will be play games / check YouTube. We'll do a few things here. Let's talk about with homework. If they need to use the computer for homework, what you can do is come into more options and you can come in and say applications are allowed, and maybe Google Chrome should be allowed. So put in Chrome, and then under websites, maybe it's Google Drive, maybe Mathletics. You can put in websites, and it doesn't have to be a full website, it can just be a keyword. So we could do maths as a keyword. Anything with maths will be allowed. Could even be maths related games. When you've done that, what it will do is when they go through their habits, and I'll show you this in a bit, they will be able to use the apps that you have allowed. And we'll do the same thing for playing games. We can come in and we can say allow Fortnite if that's a game that they're playing, and probably Chrome again as well. And then you might allow YouTube, and you might allow, God forbid, TikTok. You may want to restrict the list a little bit, but the idea is that it's helpful to have an outlet, and what we're setting up here is a way for them to earn their screen time. That instead of going straight to playing games or checking YouTube, they first do some homework. I'll now show you what that looks like. I'm going to click Save, and now I'll show you what it will look like. Okay, so here's what it looks like when they start the evening routine. We can see we've got put lunchbox away, do homework, and then play games. So initially, they'll put their lunchbox away, that'll take 3 minutes. Then they'll do homework. And you'll see that Chrome is allowed, and I can go to Google Drive. But if I say go to Facebook, that's blocked. Or YouTube, that's blocked. But Mathletics is allowed. So you can control what is relevant for their homework. And they've got 4.5 minutes to do that. Once that is all complete, now they've finished their homework, they can play games. So if I go to Mathletics, Mathletics is blocked, but YouTube is allowed. And Fortnite is probably also allowed. So you can customize what you want them to have access to so that maybe you find some games that aren't quite as bad as they could be. And then after the 10 minutes is up, then they're able to go back and, well, finish using their computer, or you decide what's going to make sense for them to do next. One other thing that is helpful here, so by default, the way that it's set up is you can actually, the child can come in and they can exit it, or they can skip it, and you probably don't want to allow that. You probably actually want to make it a bit harder by setting a password. So you can put in a password that only you know. So if I do study as the password, and then we can apply the password for all of these scenarios. And now you'll notice that if I try to go to preferences, I have to put in the password, which means that they can't come in and change the definition of what is done during homework. They have to get you to change it. The other thing is if I come in here and deactivate, I won't be able to do that. I'll have to put in the password. So that means that they can stay on task. One other thought on this is that you don't want this to be a control mechanism. This really needs to be about working with the child or the teenager to elicit their own desire to actually improve with their homework. Because if they feel like they're being forced to do something, they're going to find ways around it. There are always ways. Maybe they'll play Xbox instead, or they'll do other things on a different device that you don't notice. If it's just control and they're not actually bought into the process, it's going to fail. But if they recognize that they actually do want to get better at school and they do want to be more organized, then this can be a tool that they can use to help themselves. And it might be harder with younger children. Maybe if the child is only 8 years old, for example, then they're not really going to see the importance of homework, and arguably they shouldn't actually have any homework. But as they get older, especially around, say, the 14, 15 years old age group, I think that's when, especially if I look back at myself when I was a teenager, I knew that I wanted to do homework. But I found it very difficult because I would come home and I had this bad habit of going straight home and playing RuneScape. I felt bad about it, and I felt good the days where I did do my homework first and then I rewarded myself with the games. And I think the young person in your life may feel the same. If you can bring them along on the journey and help them to see that this isn't a mechanism for controlling them, this is a mechanism for bringing out their best self, because they can do well at school. They just might need some help.